Okay. So now today we'll discuss about we are going to deploy Citrix apps and desktops installation configuration for our users. If we want to deliver these apps and desktops to the users, we need to design our architecture, our environment. Then we need some inputs from the client side. Okay, what may be the inputs we can ask to the client, or maybe what inputs we required in order to design. Okay, the first one may be how many how many users we have. Okay, how many end users are going to access this environment? Say we may have maybe 1,000 users or 5,000 users or 10,000 users. Sometimes even some lakhs of users also are going to access. Say because the number of controllers, number of storefront servers, number of VDAs, these all depends upon
Number of
the how
users.
many number of users we have. And other than users, even we required one more important thing. Concurrent users, how many? Say maybe I have 10,000 users, but in shift I maybe 3,000 users are available. Okay, are all 10,000 also available or in the same zone I'm getting? Okay, then one more important thing is what is the target location? So targeted users location, all are coming from the maybe same location like Europe or North America, Australia, or they have spread all over the world. So that kind of target users locations and where our office, remote office locations, all these also we need to ask the inputs. Okay, then which type of apps they're going to use or how many apps also we need, because maybe if you have more apps, then we again definitely scalability also we need to increase. How many number of apps we required, how many. Okay, then any other inputs can you give? What may be the other factors we required? So these are not the technical kind of things, but we need to take some inputs from the end user. According to that, we need to design our infrastructure.
Groups and group policies.
Yeah, so technically we no need to ask any client.
Okay.
We need to deliver all these solutions to them. So business requirements we need to gather from the client. Okay, so then which type of device users are using? Okay, are they using like mobile thin clients? Okay, so that's kind of things also. And how users are connecting. Okay, whether they're connecting from their home or from office, because according to that also we need to design the infrastructure, like maybe we need to go for the NetScaler kind of solutions. Okay, how the WAN network capabilities, all these also we need to design. Like this, we need to ask more inputs to the to the client before designing, and based on these inputs, we need to provide the solution. So based on this, we need to provide the any other inputs.
Like external users, are they
Yeah,
going to
that is
be
self,
internal
like
users?
either that connecting from
Okay,
home,
okay, okay, okay.
maybe yeah, external users, or if they coming to the office, that the internal, and which type of devices, like maybe they're connecting through mobile or a smart device, thin client, zero client. Okay, so then one more input what we need to design is whether they want desktop plus app or app only. Directly application itself they want, or desktop plus app they want also we need to ask. And whether how they want to, like maybe they want to complete on premises or cloud base, or they want hybrid environment also we need to design. On premises, cloud, or hybrid kind of environments also we need to design. So these all the inputs we need to ask from the client, and based on that we need to provide the solutions. So based on that we need to provide the solutions to the clients or customers. Okay. So then while designing our infrastructure, so what are the components we required is, we required the controllers, director, storefront, license server, VDA, and we required hosting infrastructure. For that we required hypervisors or physical servers, or cloud also is supported. Those also we'll discuss. Okay. So then, like inside the firewall or DMZ, how that networking, all these also we need to design. Okay. So then like we need one or more controllers for the high availability. Storefront also we required more. License server not that much required high availability, because 30 days grace period is good enough to restore if any like disaster happens also. VDAs are very, very important. 90% VDAs as of now are in hypervisors. So 10% we have on the cloud also. Physical 1 or 2% we have. Okay. So then, so what are the OS requirements, hardware requirements, or hypervisor requirements, database requirements in order to deploy our Citrix infrastructure? We will discuss. Okay. So now, all those components, maybe initially here we have discussed about these components, right? So here we have one or more controllers, director, storefront, license server, and VDS. In the VDA also we have two types. What are those? VDA and single session OS,
Multi-session
VDA and
Multi-session
VDS.
OS.
multi-session OS also. That is also we need to design. Okay, so even that kind of inputs also we need to ask whether they want which type of operating system need to be delivered to the users. And Microsoft wise, what we required, we required one Microsoft component. Mostly we need Active Directory. Anyhow, for the networking wise, all these we need DHCP, DNS also is required. And one more is very, very important, RDS servers. Anyhow, whenever we use, so now here try to understand RDS. What is the meaning of RDS?
Remote desktop server.
Yeah, remote desktop services, or previously it's called as terminal services. Okay, so terminal services or RDS is one of the Windows feature. Multiple users can connect to multiple users can connect to
Single
one
server.
Windows server. So one Windows server. Okay, multiple users. It's a multi-user environment from the Windows server, and even on top of that, applications also can be delivered. Applications also can be delivered, but not at the level of what Citrix can do. There is no scalability, no performance, no security, stability, connectivity. It only supports Windows devices only. Any device it don't support. Any connection it won't support. More bandwidth it required. Okay. In the low latency networks, it won't work. Security wise, we have some constraints with the RDP protocol. These all features have been enhanced by the Citrix. But Citrix also required, Citrix also required RDS. So in the current scenario, for which component we required RDS, can you guess?
AD.
No. AD, RDS are not possible to install on the same machine. AD is only for the user authentication and authorization. AD doesn't require RDS. For one of the Citrix component, we required
VDS.
RDS. Yeah. VDA on multi-session OS uses RDS. Previously, for XenApp, it's mandatory we need RDS. Okay, but XenApp kind of capabilities now Citrix has given through VDA on multi-session OS. VDA on single session OS is nothing but Zen desktop kind of thing. But XenApp kind of features are VDA on the multi-session OS. In that multi-session OS, definitely we required RDS. Okay, so can you tell me RDS is uh, free version or licensed one? It's not with the Windows
License.
Server. If you purchase Windows Server, okay, by default we don't get like RDS licenses. We don't get those RDS licenses are called as RDS CALs. What is that? RDS
Call.
CALs. So in the RDS CALs stands for client access licenses. What is the meaning of RDS licenses? Client access
Client access
Licenses.
licenses.
application.
And if you are using Citrix environment, definitely, okay, so definitely we need to configure RDS CALs also.
RDS.
RDS
In
call.
order to configure RDS CALs, we required even RDS licenses also we required. Okay, so that means if we want to design the Citrix environment, definitely we need Windows operating system. For all the Windows also we require the licensing. Okay, for if we are using VDA on multi-session OS, even we require RDS licenses also. And if you are using any application, and if that application also required any license, even that application licensing also we need to configure. Okay, so then Citrix wise also we require the Citrix licenses. Citrix licenses also we are going to design using like a Citrix license server will validate whether we have those licenses or not. Okay, so these are the things we need to design in our environment when we go for the Citrix infrastructure. When we go for the Citrix infrastructure, so we need to design all these. Okay, any doubts on this? Any doubts? So application wise also that purely depends upon not Citrix, it depends upon the application provider. Okay, so if the application provider said yes, we require license, then definitely we need to design that. If the user doesn't require license, application doesn't require license, then we no need of the licensing part. Okay, so accordingly we need to design that. Okay, any doubts on this? Any doubts?
No, Shrikant, good.
Okay, so then once we design all this, like we need to check the like what are the operating systems, all those also we'll discuss. Mostly we required on the Windows, we required .NET and VC++ packages, those all the prerequisites. Most of the Windows installers nowadays required those prerequisites also. And I have one doubt here, whether we are going to install controller Assume. Controller, is it required RDS? Is it controller is required RDS or not?
No.
Yeah, controller is not required the
RDS
RDS.
services.
Controller RDS required, we need. Okay, so then hardware requirements wise, so we are not discussing in our lab environment. In the lab environment, we may have small infrastructures also, but when we are designing our production infrastructure, these are the minimum things we need to set up. Okay, so then like for the production environment, definitely we need to core components. Citrix recommends to go for minimum 12 GB RAM. Okay, so then all for evaluation only, they're telling 5 GB RAM. Okay, and minimum all core components and storefront on one server itself. We want to set up all those. Minimum we need to go for 12 GB. But if you want to spread all in the real time, not all core components installed on the same server also is not recommended. So we can have a studio on separate server, controller on separate server, director. Say for the large scale production environments, installing all these on the same environment also is not recommended. Okay, so then like if you go for the separate missions, then minimum 5 GB RAM, 800 MB hard disk, then like even database also we need to design. Okay, so then for studio we can have 1 GB RAM, director minimum 2 GB, storefront also we require 2 GB, and license server also, because some thousands of users are going to validate whenever they're going to connect. Sometimes at the starting of the office, more users may come, because at 9 o'clock if my office starts, maybe 4,000 users may start at morning 8 o'clock itself. At that moment, we'll have the peak load and they need to evaluate the licenses also. Hence, we need to make sure licensing part also. Okay, so all may be installed on the same mission is only for the dev and QA environments or non-production environments, or for proof of concepts we can use. In the production, all core components should be installed on the separate missions we need to take care. Okay, so then like here they have the right sizing of the images. That is the continuous process. Monitoring also we need to do. We need to scale up or scale down also, depends upon the requirements. And whenever we are installing most of the Citrix components, we require Microsoft Visual C++, this redistributable installer. Mostly this will run by default with the installer itself. Okay, and for the delivery controller, the supported components we have is Windows Server Core 2022 and Windows Server 2022, Windows Server 2019, Standard and Data Center editions with the server core components. So whatever I have mentioned are for the latest like a 2404 latest version related components. So Windows Server Core, Windows Server 2022. What is the meaning of Core Edition is, Core Edition doesn't come with any of the GUI capabilities. Core Edition doesn't come with GUI capabilities. In the initial XenApp, Core Editions are not supported, but now they're supporting even the Core Editions also. Okay, so Core, what is that meaning of Core is?
GUI is
Yeah,
not
we don't get the
supported.
GUI not
GUI,
support.
but we can use the commands, or from the remote explorer also we can administrate. Okay, so then studio, this kind of MMC console we can't work, but controller we can install. So maybe studio we can have on the separate mission, from that we can administrate it. Studio and controller, not mandatory, both should be installed on the same server. Okay, so then we required a .NET framework, Windows PowerShell, Microsoft Visual C++ distributable. RDS is not required. for the Windows Server. Okay, and coming to database, it's a Microsoft SQL Server itself is supporting. Very long back, they used to support Oracle also as one of the database, but as of now, they're supporting Windows SQL Server itself. In the SQL Server wise, we have SQL Server 2022, SQL Server 2019, okay, 2017, 2016 Service Pack 2, and the failover for the high availability. Either we need to go for failover groups or availability groups or mirroring for the replication of the database we need to design. Okay, so then these all the versions we need to design. Okay, so mostly Express Edition is by default we are installing in the Express mission, but that is not recommended for the production databases. Only for the dev and QA we can use Express installer. Okay, so that is also database also have been installed on the same mission where we have the controller. That is also not recommended for the production servers. The database should be installed on the remote servers itself. We need to design. The database also should be installed on the remote servers itself. We need to install. Okay, so these all, and for the high availability, even we have localhost cache also, but for production, definitely we need to go for the SQL Server clustering also, and localhost cache also is using on the controller Express database. Previously, IMA LHC is the file name. That means they're going to copy that into one. Microsoft database, MS Access kind of database, they used to download that file. But now localhost cache also is using Express database, okay, on the local mission. Okay, so that when we install controller, SQL Server Express also locally it's installing by default. Okay, but Express database is different. For this localhost cache, one more database, Express database is going to be installed. Okay. Then what is the meaning of studio? So studio is for the administration purpose. We are going to use the studio. Director is used for the monitoring kind of thing. Studio previously is the like a management console base. Okay, but now they're supporting even web base also. So web base also they're going to support. Okay, so now for that also we can have web studio is also is there, which is management web-based management console, or we can install normal Citrix Studio also. We require the Windows servers itself. Okay, so it's not mandatory. It should be on the controller itself. Okay, so we can install on the another machine also. We can install from that. We can manage. Okay, in the real time also, either on the controller or on the separate missions we are going to install. And for the director also, we required mostly the Windows Server core itself. We required Windows Server features itself. We are going to design. Most of them we required Windows servers itself. And if you want to go for Citrix UPM, we are going to use Citrix UPM profile management solution, and through the policies. Previously, profile management softwares we need to install manually, agent, all those. But now with the controller itself, by default, we are getting that profile management. With the VDA also, we are getting those profile management solutions. And browser director also, we need to use like latest versions of the browser itself. If you use the legacy browsers, maybe some issues may come. And here very, very important, VDA. Say VDA, we have two types, virtual desktop agent for single session OS and VDA for the multi-session
Multi-session.
OS. Single session OS is supporting Windows 11 and Windows 10. Okay, Windows 10 and Windows 11, and Windows 10 also they're mentioning only 64-bit only. I don't think now 32-bit installers are available. Mostly we have the 64-bit installers, and on top of that also we required Windows.NET framework and Microsoft VC++. And VD on multi-session, Windows 10 normally it's not available. Only in the Citrix cloud, Windows 11 is available. Windows 10 also with the Citrix DAS, that is Citrix Cloud Desktop as a Service. But normal installers, they're supporting Windows Server 2022, Windows Server 2019. Okay, so then definitely for the Windows multi-session OS, say here if you go for this, just go through this highlighted one. Okay, so not only .NET framework and VC++ prerequisites, here we need RDS also. Then definitely this installer VD on multi-session OS automatically is going to install and enables remote desktop service roles. If you don't install, all those prerequisites also have been already configured. When we are installing the very older versions of XenApp and Zen Desktop, previously we need to enable terminal services RDS as the prerequisites. Okay, but now automatically this VDM multi-session OS itself is installing all these components. By default, it is installing. All this is installing. By default, it is installing. And AD level, definitely we can have the functional levels. We can have Windows Server 2012, older AD level, forest level. Even we have an Active Directory is the higher version also. For the backend also, it is supporting at the functional level. It is supporting all these. Okay. So coming to hypervisors. So coming to hypervisors, like we need to design the hypervisors also. We don't use physical infrastructure because it's very expensive. Okay, Citrix supports all the three hypervisors also. Citrix have their own hypervisor called as Citrix Zen Server. Okay, so this itself is now called as Citrix hypervisor itself. Okay, so then we have VMware vSphere. Otherwise, we have Hyper-V also from the Microsoft
Microsoft, I
wise.
agree.
We have Hyper-V. Nutanix also, I think it's supported. Okay, from the cloud wise, AWS,
AWS Azure.
Azure, even GCP also. Citrix Cloud, Azure, sorry, even on premises, if you have the VMware vCloud also, Citrix Cloud is going to communication brokering can be done. Okay, so AWS, Azure, GCP, these all the public cloud service providers. Citrix and VMware are the private cloud kind of solutions. Citrix Cloud supports hybrid environments also. Okay, so these all the versions are supported by. Mostly we can use either Citrix hypervisor or VMware vSphere, and Azure cloud wise also we are going to install the hosting infrastructure. Okay, yeah, any doubts on this? Any doubts?
Yeah,
No,
Srikant, GCP means Cloud
Yeah,
Pub.
Google Cloud Platform
Okay.
is a Google cloud platform. That is also one of the leading cloud platform they have. Okay, so then we are going to use we don't have that much infrastructure in order to set up. For our lab, we are going to use VMware Workstation. So VMware Workstation comes under Type 2 hypervisor, or this itself is called as hosted shared hypervisor. Okay, if
Wiper.
you don't have a VMware Workstation, we can use Oracle VirtualBox also. But I prefer to install VMware Workstation on your machine, and in your BIOS, in the motherboard BIOS settings. Definitely, we need to enable VT. VT stands for virtual technology. That means our hardware definitely need to support VT technology in the BIOS. If they don't support the virtualization technology on the BIOS, we can't run multiple VMs. Okay, so one of the prerequisite on our hardware is, what is the prerequisite on our hardware?
To enable the VT
Yeah,
in
say
BIOS.
we need to enable
So,
the VT.
so
Okay,
we need to
say we
enable
need
the
to go
VT.
to BIOS, maybe some hardware we need to 10 F10, some hardware F2. That depends upon your hardware. Escape also for some hardware. Okay, so once we design the VT, all those, we need to install VMs. So what is the VM we need to install is either any of the Windows Server OS we need to set up. Okay, so any of the Windows Server OS uh, Windows Server 2022, 2019, those all we need to choose. So now here I'll show you how to install one Windows. So then once you set up the Windows, everyone try to download Windows Server version also. So 2019 or 2022 evaluation versions you can download for the practice purpose. Now uh, try to download VMware Workstation also. Okay, from the internet you can download VMware Workstation also and try to install VMware Workstation. Okay, so this is our VMware Workstation. Once we install VMware Workstation, like this we are going to get, then file, new virtual machine. Okay, previously we used to install on the hypervisor or physical machines, but as we don't have multiple infrastructures, we are using on the VMware Workstation. So now, while installing the new machine, we need to choose either recommended or custom. Better to go for the custom features. Then hardware compatibility, choose which version you have. Then installer disk. Say in the installer disk, we need to download, I said right, we need to download the like Windows versions, all this. That Windows version we need to keep. Okay, so we need to keep the I have deleted that, but we need to choose the ISO of which version of, not
Server
Zen server, these. First we need to
Windows.
choose the Windows version. Okay, so by tomorrow I'll download that. Once we choose the ISO, then which operating system that is, choose here Windows Server. Automatically it will choose if it is Windows Server ISO. Then give the good naming. and location where this VM need to store. Okay, so firmware type, we have these all the two BIOS options we have. Anything is fine. Okay, then this is important. Say as of now we are giving the two cores try to give, depends upon your laptop processor, all those. And minimum you give RAM is if you have 16 GB, try to give 4 GB RAM. Okay, 4 GB RAM you give, and these are the network types: bridge network, NAT, host only network. If you use the bridge network, uh, the whatever the VM we have, outside of this machine also it can communicate. Outside to this machine also it can communicate if you use a bridge network. If you use the NAT, only with the host only it will communicate. Outside we can't access that. Okay, if you use the bridge network, from outside also that VM is accessible. But if you use the NAT, only from the host only it can access, and host internet it can use. Okay, if you host only, it's only a private network. Even we don't get the internet also from the outside. And do not use a network connection, then that is even from the host also we can't access. That is completely isolated kind of thing. Okay, in our environment, use the NAT itself. Okay, so why we are using NAT also we'll discuss. Don't use a bridge network as of now. Use the NAT. All the VMs can communicate using the NAT also. Then remaining all go with the default options. So create a new virtual disk, and we can split that also into multiple files and give 60 GB minimum. Next, yeah, then one VMDK file is getting created, that is the hard disk file. Okay, so then finish this. Once you do these steps and start the installation, our Windows server is getting installed. Okay, so once we install this Windows, so now here if I have Windows also, assume one Windows have been installed. So now we can power on this uh, Windows virtual machine. Just we can power on that virtual machine, we can power on. And once we install the OS, it's mandatory. We need to install VMware tools also. Don't do anything without installing VMware tools. Don't do anything without installing VMware tools. So why we need to install that VMware tools on top of that VM also we'll discuss. Okay, so then here just we can do the power management like start, stop, suspend, shut down. Okay, all these operations we can perform. Okay, so then here this is very important. We can take the snapshot also. What is the concept of the snapshot is the state of the VM we can preserve by taking the snapshot. The state of the VM we can preserve by taking the snapshot. If there is any problem, we can revert back to that state. Okay, so now if I took a snapshot here at this moment with the clean OS I have, that means after base OS, after configuring AD, DNS, DHCP, with all the working configurations. If I want to revert back to this state, I can revert back. If I want to go to this state, I can revert back. So like this, it's easy to revert back also. So suppose here we can revert back, or we can take the snapshots also. What is that? What is the advantage of snapshot in the virtualization is, or even in the cloud also it's supported. The state of the VM, we can preserve that state. Whenever we want, we can go to that state itself. Okay, so hence it's mandatory we need to take a snapshot also periodically. Okay, So if while installing also, I'll tell one use case. With the clean setup, if I have a snapshot and while installing I got an error or I have misconfigured, then what I can do is I can revert back to the clean setup. Okay. So like this, I can easily work on that. Easily I can work on that even if I revert back to that state. So that is the main advantage of snapshots also. So once we took the snapshots, we can revert back. Okay, and VMware tools also is mandatory. So we need to install the VMware tools before installing any of the components. Also, we need to take the VMware tools also. Okay, so these all the setup we need to do. Then for the definitely we required not only the Citrix components in our lab, we need Active Directory, okay, DNS,
DHCP.
DHCP. So those also we need to set up on one Windows server. Okay, so we need to dedicated one Windows server on this, and for the small environments, controller plus VDA on multi-session OS. Both in the real time should be in the two different missions, but here in this environment, we can have both can be on the same server we will design. But on the Active Directory DNS DHCP, controller is not recommended or not installed. On the Active Directory mission, no Citrix components are recommended to install. Even RDS also is not recommended to install. It's not possible to install also on the Active Directory mission. Okay, so like this, we are going to choose two VMs. One is for Active Directory, DNS, and DHCP. Then second one is for the Citrix controller. And the third mission, normally we require VDA on multi-session OS. But as of now, on the controller mission itself, we are installing VDA on the multi-session OS. But in the real time, those all on the separate missions. Okay. So today try to download one Windows server version and try to install one VM. Keep ready one VM. If you want similar kind of VMs, even in the virtualization, we can clone also. So similar kind of VM if we want, we can just clone that VM also. Okay.
2016 is fine, Srikant. For
Which one?
2016 OS is fine.
No. For the latest
2022.
version is not supported.
Okay.
If you have some 1902 like that, it is to support.
Okay.
Okay, say first directly don't use 24 version. Maybe 1902 like this will install. Later we'll upgrade it. Okay,
Yes, Srikant.
because that upgrade steps also important for us. So these all we'll do in the tomorrow session. Okay.
Okay, Srikant. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes,